In this video, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into well-being as well as its relation to brain-derived neurotrophic factor, nerve growth factor, as well as neurotransmitters and neurotransmission. And in case you don't know, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, nerve growth factor, and NGF, and neurotransmitters refer to various chemically based and protein based hormones in the body that are directly related to our psychological and perceptual processes and have physiological processes that are occurring simultaneously in the body and have this psychophysiological underpinning to them that impact our everything from our perceptions, motivations, emotions, feelings, actions, and behaviors to even the meaning that we perceive, and also directly impact our well-being, and particularly the self, as well as various aspects of personality. And this clearly directly relates to well-being because it impacts pretty much everything that's occurring within us, within the self, and regarding various mind, body, environment constituents, as well as mind, body, environment constituencies. And there are certain relationships between our experience of psychological distress as well as eustress, or you could think of it as positive stress, that can actually benefit us and our positive well-being, benefit the self in particular, increase things like positive perceptions, positive motivations, positive emotions, positive feelings, positive actions, positive behavior, perceptions of meaning, motivations related to meaning, emotions related to meaning, feelings related to meaning, actions related to meaning, behaviors related to meaning, values, value-laden perceptions, value-laden motivations, value-laden emotions, value-laden feelings, value-laden actions, and value-laden behaviors within the self and related to the self and associated with the self. And when we experience something like psychological distress, what happens is we have usually a release of things like serotonin, this hormone serotonin that's there often to modulate things like our mood, our perceptions, impacts our motivations, our emotions, our feelings, our actions and behaviors, and can be taxing on the body and the immune system. But it's not just serotonin that's more associated with things like mood and our more of our survival related drives and urges, and also a lot of our psychological motivations are bound up to serotonin. um, but it's also things, a neurotransmitter such as neuroepinephrine, which has more to do with wakefulness and our alertness, and also that arousal, that the sweat that you get, that sweat response, the secretion of that, and that heightened state of arousal that really impacts our emotional and feeling systems as well as our behavior, our emotions, um, motivations, perceptions, actions, and behaviors, as well as epinephrine too, which is also very much related to norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is adrenaline, and epinephrine is adrenaline too. So again, it's directly related to that arousal response, an increased heart rate in particular, and sweating palms as well. That same response, and an increase of energy. Um, Serotonin, norepinephrine, and epinephrine all give us increased psychological energy, sense of increased psychological energy when they're elevated. And when we're experiencing a response of distress, there's an increase of serotonin or epinephrine, as well as cortisol and catecholamines. And cortisol and catecholamines are also hormones that can be very taxing to our psychological, perceptual, as well as physiological systems that have a negative impact on inflammation and inflammatory markers, as well as our immune response that can uh, harm us in various ways, increasing our risk of disease, illness, and various disorders, and various symptoms of various diseases, disorders, and psychological dysfunctions, even. So it can decrease or depress mood, emotions, negatively impact perceptions, negatively impact motivations, negatively impact emotions, negatively impact feelings, negatively impact actions, and negatively impact behavior. And brain derived neurotrophic factor, nerve growth factor, and as well as other hormones involved in neurotransmission, such as gamma aminobutyric acid, which plays a role more in rest and relaxation, and more of these self-regulatory functions, and also repair and recovery and growth and development too. That's directly related to brain-derived neurotrophic factor and nerve growth factor. It tends to modulate or regulate at a genetic, an epigenetic level that's associated with our various perceptions, motivations, behaviors, feelings, actions, and responses that we have within the self, and that we express and self-express in the body, that can regulate these inflammatory markers and uh, neuroinflammatory markers, as well as improve our immune system and how we feel, increasing our positive perceptions, positive emotions, positive motivations, positive feelings, positive actions, positive behaviors, and a positive self in relation to promoting greater positive well being and building a positive, psychologically sustainable infrastructure, growing that, maintaining it, preserving, protecting, and sustaining it ultimately. And it's important to understand how these things operate together to be able to perceive and be motivated by, as well as experience less emotions and feelings and actions and behaviors in relation to psychological distress. So we can lower the frequency and regulate the psychological distress across various situations, within various situations, and throughout various situations, as well as start to promote more of this positive eustress. So positive perceptions, positive motivations, positive emotions, positive feelings, positive actions, and positive behaviors in relation to situations that may at first be psychologically distressing, um, and to eventually come out of that with greater positivity and positive well-being through more of this challenge approach to our stresses, or primarily this positivity that we can get and seek and cultivate through these more psychologically distressing perceptions, motivations, emotions, feelings, actions, and behaviors, as well as situations and conditions that we're exposed to in the surroundings, in the surrounding environment. And ultimately, the more positivity that we can access through our perceptions, motivations, emotions, feelings, actions, and behaviors, and within the self through cultivating, meaning, thoughtful processing, as well as value, and also our own perceived, motivated, emotion, feeling based, action based, behavioral based sense of purpose, that can foster this greater sense of positive well being and ultimately promote more of these self actualization tendencies that build and benefit us through developing and cultivating this positive, psychologically sustainable wellness infrastructure. And that's all I wanted to say about that. So I hope you enjoyed this video.